Well, I think everybody who's gotten to this point is playing at a high level. Everybody's highly motivated. Everybody is playing well to advance to this point. So I think us having to overcome a shaky start against a very good Garner-Webb team and facing that and showing some resiliency, I hope that the way we had to play to advance and then against Oklahoma will carry over, because you're going to need that, again, to continue to advance.
Am I right? Middle.
Aaron McFarling with the Roanoke Times. Tony, they have 4 starters listed at 6'9". Are there any similarities to Florida State with them, just with their length and size, and just kind of how do you counter that kind of a lineup?
Yeah, no, their size is impressive and a terrific point guard. When we played Duke, when Jones was out, they went, they were big and long like that, and then Florida State, that length. Their defensive numbers have been terrific in this. They're hot, obviously. They've won 10 in a row, and their numbers are really good in terms of what they're turning people over, field goal percentage, defense, and I think a lot of it has to do with their system defensively, what they're doing, and I think their quickness and length. That's just something that they can close on shooters, plug gaps, and they're interchangeable parts, which makes it challenging. So you obviously got to try to get shots. You got to be good with the ball offensively. You got to take care of it when they pressure you, and then, of course, be as good as you can defensively against them. But I think that's why teams you can just see it. There's not many easy looks out there. You have to work for them.
I've got one here on my left.
Tony, we heard from some of the players that after the Oklahoma game, you came in the locker room and had a stuffed monkey on your back, and you actually pulled it off. Do you feel now that you're here at the second weekend of the tournament, has there been any shift in the energy with the guys?
We just had fun with that. That's, again, only those of us who've been part of last year's team and been in through this year and all the things were there can appreciate it. And we'll be bonded for life by this experience. But we just had fun with it, saying, that was there, and they had to kind of fight through it. And so in coming to the locker room and saying, all right, that part is gone, or you've gotten past that. I think there's, we've talked about all the time, there's the joy of competition, the fun in pursuing a championship, but there's still a focus and there's still expectations and, pressures and all that there. But I think that they could get over that obstacle, I think, was significant, and they'll have that with them. Now coming into the Oklahoma game, I thought we played early better, we were more efficient, and we're going to have to do that here. And again, advancing, it's another step, and I think there's excitement. So it does feel a bit different than, and I think you'd ask any program that, but ours, than your first round games. So to advance is, excitement.
Right side in the back.
Tim Sullivan, Louisville Courier-Journal. Kind of a follow-up. Do you feel unburdened by getting this far after what happened last year, and how do you process going forward the challenges that still remain?
Yeah, I think it's like to advance, certainly to win the first round game after last year's situation, you had to look that in the eye, and it was ironic. We were a 1 seed again in that setting, and then to be down, 14 points. But the guys to have responded with the season they had, and to have the year they had, to be co-champs in a league, the ACC, that has 5 teams, obviously we know in the Sweet 16, having to go on the road, play that many games, that to me was an answer. That was responding in the right way. And then there was another step of responding in a challenging, tough setting in the first round, second round, and here we are. And I think certainly there's an enjoyment and a freedom in it, but there's also a desire to play well and advance again. Burden, unburdened, doesn't really matter, in my opinion. You step up to the challenge that's there. You have joy in it, you have focus in it, and you got to be able to look both victory and defeat in the eye and say it's a possibility and go forward. I think that's the best way to be, and our guys have worked very hard to get to this spot, and obviously everyone here is desperate to advance.
Okay. We're going to go over to the left side here, and I think you two guys had questions. Hands out. Okay, those two, and then right in front of them after that.
Tony, a lot of times in the past, I know your dad has given you a golden nugget before you go to a tournament. Has he said anything to you this year about how to approach things or any special little messages?
He always gives me great insight and messages, and he doesn't watch the games every now and then. I don't even know if he's going to be here, if he's going to come to the games. He didn't last week. That's always a game time decision. But he's been a rock for me over my career, as so many have. But he's helped me, and I think only, as we talked about last time, parents understand and bleed or feel for their children in ways that the rest don't. So when he tells me things, I know it's trusted. And the fact that he's been through it as a coach, that he's coached teams to a Final Four, he's had first-round defeats, all that in between is invaluable. So, but there isn't anything specific that stands out. I think he's thankful and wants us to keep playing well.
Yeah, Kip Coons for South Boston News and Record and Press Box View. Tony, talking with Jack and also Jay Huff, they compared Oregon's collection of size and length to Louisville as far as the teams that you've seen that are similar matchup zone. How valid is that, and how do you prepare for a team with 4 6'9"s?
Yeah, I think, we talked about Florida State, Duke, Louisville. I don't know if Louisville's that long. It's unique, and I think their zone is different, or their, you look at it and say, well, I think they might be man-to-man sometimes. I think their zone, it's very effective. So all of the experiences help, but I don't think there's a team that plays their kind of defense in our league. Again, you study film and you try to come up with a game plan and go after it and know you're going to see. I think I don't know if anybody's quite that long and that athletic or has someone as athletic as their interior player in Wooten.
Tony, with Kyle looking to bounce back shooting-wise from Sunday, do you feel, because as a player you were also a very efficient shooter, do you feel equipped to sort of help him with that sort of thing?
I think Kyle played, he missed shots, but what I liked is he played well. He got to the lane, he passed well, he guarded hard. It's about the whole game, and yep, we're going to have to make some shots, of course, and I think he's not going to be cautious or anxious to shoot an open shot. I mean, he obviously did that even when he wasn't hitting. He took good shots. So, of course, you get extra shots. You work a little bit on your mechanics, but you step to the moment and shoot it, and I think he'll be equipped. I'll give him the confidence, certainly, to take good shots, but I'll give him the instruction is play well defensively, play strong with the ball, help this team lead. That's what good players do. That's how you help your team, so that will be my advice.
Let's go on the left side here, and then we'll go back to Tim.
Teresa Walker with AP. Coach, you've won 4 of the last 5 here in Louisville, rallying for the last 2. How much of that can be an advantage now that you're playing here at this level, at this weekend? Yeah,
we've had some wars here. I can remember the one that we lost, the bank shot by Mango. Yeah, you were there. You remember. So, but we've certainly had some battles. You're in. I guess a familiar setting. I haven't gone out on the floor. I'm sure it's obviously going to be a different floor and all that, but I don't know how that'll affect us. But we've been in the bigger pictures. We've been in tough games where we've been down, in possession games where you've had to, not unravel and just stay the course, find a stop, get a score, and just keep plugging so you don't panic or you don't change too much who you are unless there's little adjustments. I think those experiences, whether it was Louisville this year or in games in the tournament or during the year, that's the stuff you look at, and you certainly try not to get in those spots, but that's tournament play.
You had a semi-miraculous victory here last year.
That one.
When the bracket goes up, does that stick in your mind? Does that give you comfort knowing how you've come through in this building?
I really didn't think about that. We had some amazing a comeback win and things like that, but I honestly didn't think about that. I didn't even quite honestly know where I saw, hey, we're going to Columbia, and I didn't even look past that. That's how it was. So, but to be here and obviously have played in this facility is good. We played South Carolina, coincidentally, so we were in that facility. We played them this year on the road. So to be in a place that you've been, you maybe understand the feel a little bit. Can't be a bad thing.
Okay, we got 2 questions here on the right.
Do you ever have a game, one of your games end early, maybe at home, and we turn on the TV and watch one of the Pac-12 games that check people?
Well, here's what I understand. When I was at Washington State and I got the job at Virginia, I think the majority of people are like, who is this? Who's this guy? You know, again, they knew the name from obviously the singer, but that's about it. Half the time everybody's in bed when the Pac, it was Pac-10 when I was at the Pac-12 are playing games. So, but I have great respect for Oregon and for Coach Altman. Dana's done a terrific job. What he's done with his team to, kind of change some things and then win 10 games. So, and obviously watch him. But I don't watch a ton of other games, any other conference really, unless it's just bits and pieces of it. So I think, I understand, like I said, when you talk, all you got to do is watch them and see what they've done in the last number of games to appreciate and respect their caliber of play.
Tony, Mike Curtis has talked before about the communication with you and putting together his program and what he does. I'm curious, from your point of view, what does he do this time of year to keep the guys fresh, not overwork them? And particularly, I'm interested in when you're playing 2 games in a weekend, what he does in the day in between that kind of keeps them fresh but doesn't overdo it, and just what goes into that.
Yeah, I think your strength and conditioning coaches are invaluable, and your athletic trainer Ethan Saliba, Mike Curtis, they've been unbelievable all year, getting our guys as healthy as they can, get them to recover after games, and we just talk a lot about the load and all that stuff. But you have to prepare hard, you have to compete, but then you have to be wise. Duration. Intensity usually is not something that varies up and down, but maybe duration, and be prepared, but not too much, but don't do too little. I think that's where he gives a good balance, and he's been a godsend for us ever since. He's been with me the whole time, 10 years, and he's cutting edge in everything he does, and he's made incredible strides with our players in terms of their, not just their bodies, but their health, and he's one of the best.
Time for one more question, right here in the left side.
Tony, Mamadi and Jay have talked about how their confidence and other non-traditional aspects of their game and discipline have been helped by working with Tom Perrin over the past season. What have you observed in those areas that's helped them develop as we go along?
I think there's such an element with players and the mental side of the game, and sometimes just processing things with, others outside of it has been good. And Tom's been great with them. And, I said it early in the year, Mamadi's an X factor for us, and Jay and different guys have. But when guys aren't playing 35 minutes, 30 minutes a game, and their roles are sometimes they're, coming off the bench and it's hit or miss, you have to be strong-minded to be successful in that and be in the moment and learn what, how to process success and failure, because you're in a limited window. And I think Tom has helped those guys in that, and those guys have helped themselves by how they've just stayed after it. They've been about the team and they've worked, and that's a pretty consistent formula for players that are good.